Good morning, Midland, Texas. Buddy Webb here. I'm going to do a video. I'm going to call it Forced Prostitution, and primarily talking about the 2010 oil show party murder. And I looked up some statistics here online, and I'm going to go over these real quick with you just to start this, and then we'll come look at this latest Facebook post. And it says the human trafficking has surpassed the illegal sale of firearms. Trafficking will surpass the illegal sale of drugs in the next few years. It's very profitable. Drugs are used once and they're gone. Victims of child trafficking can be abused over and over and over again. It's a $32 billion industry. Human trafficking's on the rise and isn't in all 50 states, and that's from U.S. government statistics. And I'm sure that's probably what paid for the secret police, and maybe even the doctors to falsify X-rays and dismember, maim, mutilate a crime victim, and to cover up multiple murders and million-dollar underground facilities, all that. It's a billion-dollar business. 4.5 million trafficked persons are sexually exploited. Up to 300,000 Americans under 18 are lured into the commercial sex trade every year. Okay, and then this is what's amazing here. According to non-governmental U.S. sources, the average victim age is 11 to 14 years old. And the average lifespan of a victim is reported to be 7 years old. It is to be 7 years, the lifespan after, they're forced into prostitution. And that's found dead from attack, abuse, STDs, HIV, malnutrition, overdose, suicide, murder, etc. And so I'm going to show you this Facebook post, and then we'll talk about that too. It's really interesting. Here we're on my Facebook. That's under Buddy Wayne Webb, or buddy.webb.353. And what I've got here, and this is a real short read here, but I want to show you first the little meme that I created. And of course, it's the woman screaming and the cat, and she's saying, "You said it was my choice at the old show party," and the cat says, "You did have a choice. It was prostitute or die." Okay, and then that's pretty much what's going on here. That's what forced prostitution is. And remember, $32 billion industry. And they don't make money off the grandmas. You know what I mean? The younger, the more money they make. Okay, and that's why they always advertise young. Okay. And so here we go. It says, my friend was at the 2010 oil show party where that young girl was murdered in 2010 when she refused to prostitute, and she's the one that told me about this. I tried to get her to report this murder to the police, but she was afraid and told me that high-level police were there at the party. It makes sense that some of the former secret police that were caught in my home that took 6 years to get identified were the same ones at the party who she was afraid of. I have reason to believe this happened in one of the 4 3-bedroom, million-dollar underground homes that I was told about, and maybe the one that looks like it's in my backyard. In 2013, the remains of a young girl was found outside of Midland who was between 14 and 21 years old. Okay. A Facebook friend named Jessica Lee Hadley told me that she wasn't the only girl that had been raped or murdered because they didn't do what they wanted them to do. I have a screenshot of her telling me this. Another friend that just died this week, sadly, Victoria McKinney, told me about a brutal rape that happened at one of the oil show parties. I have a screenshot of that, and I'm going to show you. This isn't acceptable, and any public official that is obstructing justice needs to be held accountable. And so I'm going to go on down to these comments. The top one here. About a year after I was told about a young girl being murdered at a 2010 oil show party, the remains of a young girl, 1421, were found outside of Midland. Notice that the press or the police never mentioned that. What do you want to bet? It's the girl that I was told about who was told that shit to prostitute or die. And this is the only news story that I found on it. I think I saw something on Crime Stoppers once. That was it. I mean, this is, we have 4 different news sources here. This is your Basin is who did this one, and this was a long time ago. You know what I mean? They want to forget about that. There's a 14-year-old that's found murdered outside of Midland, 2013. I think they know it's that girl that was at the oil show party in 2010. You know, I believe it is this girl. This girl right here. These remains, and she's probably closer to 14 than 21. Jessica said that more than just one was murdered or raped at those parties when they didn't do what they wanted them to do. Corrupt police would threaten to take away their children if they didn't do it. Okay, and then I'm just gonna go over here. This is a conversation I had on Facebook with Jessica Lee Hadley, and I was telling her I was told about a young girl murdered at the oil show party, and she says I've been to 2,000 oil shows, which is an exaggeration, of course. And I'll tell you what, there's more than that. Just that one that was murdered or raped because she didn't do whatever they wanted her to do. I don't know if you know of Joe Commander. He's a law enforcement officer over in Odessa area. Well, he's totally and absolutely corrupt. The guy that replaced him, Mike something, when I was arrested, he drove me around for 6.5 hours and told me that if I wanted my children not taken, that I would go ahead and snitch and I can have my children. I didn't snitch. I did end up spending 11 weeks, 11 months in jail, and then ended up dropping the charges. And while I was in jail, they had made the CPS come and take my children. This happens all the time to women that don't cooperate or that will not do what they want them to do. I got to go for now. Bye. And so she was saying that they're abusing their power as law enforcement officers to force these young women into prostitution. And that goes right along with everything I've been told, that there was police at that party. My late friend Victoria McKinney told me about a brutal rape that happened at an oil show party. Anybody that has lived in this area has heard of them, you know. And once again, I'm telling my story. 2010, my friend told me a young girl was murdered. Victoria here says, I know someone that was brutally raped at the show years ago. That was enough for me to stay away. And I said, I'd like to hear more. And she no longer lives here, buddy. She moved to Snyder, I believe. The incident was approximately 16 years ago. It was when I was in sales. I can't recall the details, but like I said, I got my attention. That show has corruption to the core. I've never attended because of the stories I've heard. Some were prostitutes being available for these oil field guys. Some were drugs. Some were violence, as I stated. Not a safe place for a lady to put herself in. Okay. And then, as I said, these are famous. I mean, you know, this was going on before I was born, you know, and I'm in my 50s. And we're sitting on one of the largest oil fields in the nation. Okay, the link between prostitution and the rough and tough roughnecks in oil field is historic, you know, and infamous. And you know, and like I said, that this is like the big secret nobody wants to talk about. You know, these shows are put on by wealthy oil field people. You know, and you can you can imagine how much money and power they have. Anyway, obviously, the same public officials obstructing justice in this murder know about the $1 million underground facilities that were hosting international oil show parties. And that's the thing, you know, I mean, here I'm going to play a part of a recorded phone call right here. Let's see if I can get it.
He was talking about, it was not 1 million, it was actually 4, and they're actually homes.
That are underground?
3-bedroom, yes, they're 3-bedroom homes. How the building is underground that he was talking about, it was not 1 million.
Okay, and so here this woman tells me that there's 4 3-bedroom underground homes at least 25 foot deep, and she goes on to tell me that they were having pedophile parties down there. Well, doesn't that fit up? That's exactly what I believe is happening here, you know, and that's where these oil show parties were at. Just this summer, a woman told me, said, go to maps.google.com, put in my address at 3802 Fair Circle, Midland, Texas, and you'll see a large facility in my backyard on the block map that isn't seen on the satellite map. It's believed to be one of the 4 underground homes and most likely where that little girl was murdered at in 2010, where the oil show parties were held. So I'm going to show you here. This is my home. Okay, and I'm shot over here on this side of my home. Okay, here in my backyard, you see that underground facility? Well, when you go to the sat map, you don't see it because it's not, you can't see it from above ground. Okay, I believe that's one of the 4 3-bedroom underground homes cost $1 million. Okay, and I'm going to show you a better picture here in a minute, but this is Home Depot right here, and there's a secluded truck unloading lane right here. And And so you can go to maps.google.com and look that up, 3802 Fair Circle. Look for yourself. You'll see it. Okay. And, you know, once again, I mean, it's hard to imagine that the sheriff and the chief of police, the mayor, that the city council, you know, and all the people in the press that has covered up this story, that they don't know about $1 million underground facilities hosting international oil show parties. Of course they know about it. And if they know about that, they know it's connected to multiple murders. Okay. And so here we go. This comment was left on my YouTube channel where John B. said he heard somebody confess to murdering the girl at the oil show party. She was overdosed, and that was the same thing I heard from my friend. They were being forced to go take a pill at 11 p.m. each night, and I know this because I was talking to her on the phone when that was happening. The ex-wife later told me it was an antidepressant pill, and you can only imagine how the ex-wife knew exactly what kind of pill it was, okay? And so they're systematically drugging in this forced prostitution, okay? And this is the message that come in on my YouTube channel. It says, buddy, this is a quick post about that young girl that was murdered at the party. I heard that somebody had confessed to drugging the girl and she overdosed. But I heard that some of the elites, patsies, have been programmed to confess to crimes that they were committed. And then we get into CIA stuff, which I don't even comment on that. You know, I mean, I have no evidence on that. Next, last year, some stalker took the name and picture from a guy from Odessa named Sean Williams, obituary, and created a fake Facebook account. And then sent me a Facebook friend request. We had 6 mutual Facebook friends, and as you can see, I noticed that the real Sean Williams died on the last day of the 2010 oil show. That's when the little girl was murdered. And his wife told me that he killed himself right before being arrested on a probation violation. Okay, the question is being asked if he was connected with the oil show parties and or the murder of this young girl, if his death was. His widow is Timber Williamson, and she gave me more information. She told me the name of DNR, Oilfield Services. She told me that they did have a booth at the oil show. At the time, they were separated, so she couldn't account for his whereabouts during the evenings of the oil show. You know, because I was trying to eliminate him. You know, I was waiting for her to say, no, he was laying in bed next to me, but she couldn't tell me that. You know, and so I wondered if this Michael Williams was death is connected to the oil show party murder or whatever. And so these were the 6 mutual friends, and I figure since they're on his list and it's a fake profile, one of them know you know, who the real guy is behind the, you know, that created this fake profile, you know. And I remember this one here, I think owns an oil field company, and she told me, I've never been to an oil show, and I thought, and I questioned her. I said, that's kind of weird. You own an oil field trucking company, you never been to an oil show. And then she blocked me, you know, and so I'm thinking, I bet you did know, you know. And so you can see them names: Todd Bosher, Stephanie Diane Bachman, Kelly Bennett, Jenna Marie, Rebecca Hurd Frills, and Stephen Becca Dillon. Okay. So maybe one of them have information who the real guy is, because the real guy, this is the obituary on bottom, is Michael Sean Williams. 39 years old, passed away on October 28, 2010. That's the last day of the 2010 oil show party, okay? And he was born on September 7, 1971, and I took screenshots of this fake profile, and they used his birth date to create this fake profile. And it ain't him because he's dead, right? They took his picture and his name, created a fake profile, and sent me a friend request. Well, I took that as a clue. There is a URL up here you can't see because of the way that, you know, that's overlaid on it, but there is a URL up there, and law enforcement could take that URL, you can see it there, and you know, and they could track that IP address and find out exactly who that is. That's been our problem, is the public corruption. It is the lack of law enforcement. Okay, and then there's a Facebook friend, and she writes, no, you didn't put the cat in this, you know, and I wrote back, I said, not everybody knows that cat's a killer pimp, you know, and so that was a little joke. My next one, Ken Slager was a commercial director for my company, DCP Midstream, which is half owned by ConocoPhillips. His group took care of the booth at the oil shows. He used to live across the street from my home, where it's suspected an underground facility is that was used for oil show parties. And so if you go to www.midcad.org, you can look up, it's the appraisal district, you can look up the property ownership, the deed history. Okay, and so the deed history shows you that Samuel K. Slager sold that home in July 2006. Well, I didn't come down until November 2008, so that was before. But what's interesting is Ken. I knew Ken because I worked with him. Right, he was a director. He's a big shot, and for the commercial group, the wheeler dealers or whatever of our company, all our landmen reported to that group, and they took care of the oil, the booth at the oil show. His group took care of the booth at the oil show, and then across the street from his home, right, is suspected underground facility was hosting oil show parties where they're murdering little girls. So maybe Ken knows something about these underground facilities, these oil show parties. Okay, and then you can see it was sold to the relocation company, same one I used, NEI, and then Marilyn DeLuigi bought it. And if you remember, Marilyn DeLuigi was the person that told me twice that Mike Lawhon died in my home. Okay. And one time she said, I should know, right? And so, that's the Mike Lawhon story. The previous homeowner died a couple of weeks before I moved in. And you know what? Mike died the week before the 2008 oil show started. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think they killed him because they were using that facility in the backyard for prostitution, parties. And so Marilyn DeLuigi, somebody, that a law enforcement woman I want to talk to. And then she moved out, and now Dustin lives there. A really nice guy. I like him. Okay. Next one. $1 million underground home, which was hosting international oil show prostitution parties, would obviously have a lot of people there, and that would require a lot of parking. I suspect they were parking in the Home Depot parking lot and then coming over here via a tunnel. This picture is from Google Earth Historical Pictures, shows that the road was cut behind Home Depot and aimed directly at my home. One day I was in the Home Depot store and telling my story to a clerk there when she blurts out, if you happen to see a lot of cars in the parking lot late at night, then it's because we're stalking. I hadn't seen that or even thought about it at the time, so I took this as a clue. That was the excuse to explain a lot of cars parked there for people going to the underground oil show parties. Obviously, that was the excuse, okay? So I'm going to show you, this is a Google Earth map, okay? And we'll zoom in on my house right here, okay? Here's my house, okay? And here in the backyard where we believe one of the 4 underground facilities are. Now I want to show you directly behind Home Depot here. Looks like where see the different color on the road there. It's been cut, okay, and it's aimed directly at my house, okay. And so I'm suspecting that's where a tunnel was at, and it looks like that the people at the party were parking over here, and they were going in here somewhere, going underground and coming over here, okay. And then they come over here, do their prostitution tricks, murder little girls, shoot me, kill the last homeowner, etc. Then they go back out, okay. And so. That's all suspected, right? But I wanted to show you that. And you can download Google Earth and look at my address, 3802 Fair Circle. Go to the historical maps and you'll see that. And because now the ground doesn't look like that, and I'll show you why. This summer, Homeland Security is supposed to be in charge of human trafficking, right? We all know that. So I contacted them this summer and provided them enough evidence to stop this human trafficking ring and solve multiple murders. On July 2nd, 2019, this year, Agent Paul and another guy meets me at Home Depot where I show them where I thought the tunnels were at, and 2 weeks later, the ground was being dug up and concrete was being poured. Paul seemed to be more concerned with me moving from my home while under the threat of death than stopping this crime ring. Now, I'm not saying that they were obstructing justice to cover up multiple murders, but many people have suggested that, okay? And I happened to actually make a video, and I'm going to show you this. This is on my YouTube channel. It's called Met with Homeland, and Now They're Pouring Concrete. It was uploaded July 19th, 2019. Okay, I'm going to show you here.
At American Storage Center right by my house, there's a multiple garage sale here today. And as I'm driving, I'm going, this is right next to Home Depot. And where this big gate is, I can't tell you how many people have mentioned this storage center to me, because my home is like right there. I mean, it's right there where them trees are. You can see the infamous trees. But anyways, while I'm here, I think I'll take a picture here. This is where they're doing the concrete work. And you can see them out there. There's the
concrete is coming out.
And
you can see it.
See, I was just there 2 weeks ago with the Homeland Security agent, showing them where I suspected the tunnel entrance was. And
my home's right back over there.
I've got multiple people telling me there was underground facility tunnels.
Okay, and so I wanted to show you that. I mean, it's just blatant, in your face cover up as far as I was concerned. And then, you know, when I got back home, I was upset. I texted Paul, you know, and basically I texted him this video that I made that's called "Decided to Sell My Home," and it was because of the many people that have asked, suggested, or ordered me to sell my home. And I'm making a point that I set the price because it's my home, right? And so if I'm going to sell, then I set the price. And if you can't afford it, then get with the secret police and then go sneak into another home and shoot some other homeowner, you know? And I actually say that in this video. Well, I sent him the link to that. Well, you know, the big thing in this video was that the price is $1 billion. And $1 billion, okay. Well, so now if you can't afford it, then like I said, go get with secret police and go shoot somebody else, you know. But the reason I'm sending this is because here that day, and this is the text messages from Paul with Homeland. We're in the parking lot of Home Depot in a white Ford Explorer, black Ford, etc. Okay, meet us there, right? And then here, you know, and I say something to him about trying to talk me into moving from my home while I'm under the threat of death. I had provided them, you know, written copies of death threats I got after and proof that I survived a murder attempt. And you know, let's get something clear, buddy. I'm not trying to talk you into selling your home today. I simply ask you why you wouldn't consider selling your home if you continued to feel threatened there, okay? And you know, and he says, remember, our entire conversation was recorded. Well, I would love to have that conversation posted on my Facebook, you know, because after that I explained the Hobbs Act to him, and the Hobbs Act says that you cannot conspire with other people to terrorize a property owner into selling their property, and that's exactly what's going on here. And I explained to him I said how it works. Is some people, you know, breaks in the home, they'll give death threats, and then other people's of the gang, because they're working together, it's a conspiracy, right? The corrupt police, they look the other way while the you know, you're sending them a list of 50 videos with burglar alarms going off in the home, right? And they're doing nothing about it. And then we have the people going, I don't know why you don't sell that home if you're under the threat of death, because they're trying to talk you into selling the home. You know, that's where I come back and go, okay, it's for sale, $1 billion. Now it's about the price, because not only do you want me to sell my home, but you want to set the price too. Because, you know, and there we go. And really what they're wanting to do is cover up multiple murders, in my opinion. Okay. And and so I'm going to close that out. You know, and this got to get resolved. You know, that this underground facility is still here in the backyard. Crimes are still going on at this house, and they're still trying to terrorize me out of my home. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.